Targeting civilians in Goma. Aid workers say it's the worst escalation of the conflict in decades.
The situation in Goma is catastrophic. We're faced with a stream of casualties like we've never seen before. The number of injuries reflects the scale of the violence and the danger posed by this type of conflict.
The unrest quickly spread to the capital, Kinshasa, 1,600 kilometers from Goma, as crowds rallied behind President Tshisekedi. The Rwandan embassy was set on fire. Also others, including the French and Belgian missions, which are seen as favouring Rwanda. Business premises and diplomatic sites representing the US, Kenya and the Netherlands also came under attack. Faced with the M23 rebel advance, many Congolese government soldiers surrendered and gathered over the border in Rwanda. Civilians left behind in Goma can only hope a wider war will be avoided in a region already ravaged by 3 decades of conflict.
We're now joined by DW correspondent Jonas Gadding in Kinshasa. Jonas, there were clashes in Kinshasa yesterday, as we just saw in our report. What's the situation in the capital now?
For the moment, it looks quite calm, but I'd say maybe it's too calm, because I've been speaking to a couple of people on the streets and they said that they're still afraid of opening shops, for example. They are afraid that there might be looting again. Some people, they're afraid to go to their offices. There are protests announced by civil society and students. The governor didn't allow them, so we'll need to see how things will evolve today.
And what do you know about the situation in Goma? Have the rebels now taken control of that city in the east of the country?
It's a little bit difficult to say, because people are still in hiding, our correspondents as well. But from what we know, that they have taken control of the key strategic points, such as the airport. There might still be some Congolese army, the FARDC units, which are hiding somewhere or which are resisting, but it's very, very unlikely that they will change the situation. It's on the humanitarian side, it's very problematic, because there are like dead bodies on the streets, and we have actually no idea on the death toll for the moment.
Now, the presidents of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda are due to meet today in Nairobi. Is it likely, do you think, that that meeting will actually take place? And if so, can we expect any progress?
Nope, we don't want it.
A good question. A couple of days ago, the president's spokesperson in the DRC, she said that this is not the right time to do this.
Yes.
Let's see if they will meet and in what kind of meeting it will be. But we need to take in mind that there has already been a peace process negotiated in Nairobi, and this didn't work out. There has been a peace process in Luanda, in Angola. It didn't work out as well. And this is mainly because Rwandan President Paul Kagame, he insists that DRC President Felix Tshisekedi negotiates with the M23 rebels directly, but this is what the DRC President refuses to do. He says that they are rebels and I'm not going to sit on the table with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a number of international peacekeepers have been killed recently in eastern Congo. Why have the peacekeeping missions of both the UN and the African Union failed to stop this conflict from escalating?
If you're looking at MONUSCO, the UN peacekeeping mission, the mandate is they have the right to shoot, yes, but they are mostly there to protect the population from those smaller local rebel groups. But this time we can't talk about an international law, because we've got plenty of Rwandan troops which are on the ground. UN figures talk about 3,000 to 4,000 Rwandan troops which are in the DRC, so they simply don't have the strength. They are spread in the region, and only a couple of them are in Goma. And the SADC member countries' troops, they have just just came last year, and they as well, they don't have the capacities, and there's the question whether they have really the willpower, the will to sacrifice their lives in their faraway country. Some of them died, but they were not able to change the situation.
Jonas, thank you very much for that update. That was DW correspondent Jonas Gadding in Kinshasa.
South African government will be undertaking. Of course, the EFF MP, Caldenhouse, is joining me now, and we'll jump straight into the conversation. Today, as the Defense Committee, you were supposed to be sitting, but not necessarily to consider the matter of the DRC, but other matters, but you wanted that matter to be brought forward urgently. Why do you think that's important?
Good morning. Yes, there was a scheduled meeting of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, already a long time ago scheduled. But yesterday I spoke to the chair of the committee, Mr. Lekhutle, and I said to him, let's clear the agenda of that predetermined meeting and deal with the urgency of what is playing itself out in Goma, in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. As soon as I said that, I could hear that Mr. Lekhutle was unhappy. He said, oh, I will have to talk to the minister about it. And then a while later, we got a message on the WhatsApp group that the meeting has been cancelled. Now, this is unacceptable because the minister is part of the executive. The Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans is part of the legislative pillar of government. So we are in the oversight position. We must review the actions of the minister. We cannot be told by the minister that it doesn't suit her to come and account in front of the Portfolio Committee meeting. I objected, other members of the committee objected. Then Mr. Lekhutle gave in. An hour later we got the message, no, the meeting will go ahead. That was good. Then last night, late in the night at 10:30, suddenly we received a message that he's postponed the meeting for 7 days because the minister is not available.
But would you have given the minister sufficient notice for her to appear before the committee?
The minister must appear at any time, especially in a crisis like this. Surely the minister should be fully aware of everything that is happening in the DRC. She doesn't need to be given long notice to do so. We deal here with an absolute crisis. Every minute of every day counts in order to save the lives of our soldiers. 14 SANDF soldiers, young lives, have already been lost. And we must be told that we must give the minister adequate time to get her mind together. The minister must be on top of the issues 24/7. But the problem is that the minister has failed to do that. She is incompetent. She's unable to deal with these issues. That's why she lied in an SABC TV interview, saying that the SANDF is able to deal with the issue in the DRC, while it was already clear with the events that was happening there that the SANDF was in dire straits without resources and that our soldiers were dying. So we wanted the minister to come here in this, what is now an empty room, which is an indication of the dereliction of the chairperson and the dereliction of the minister. We wanted her to come here and account, but I'll tell you what happened.
But we're getting tidbits of information. As an MP, what we know, what happened, and whether is the South African government equipping the resources that are required in that war.
You're quite right to say we're getting tidbits of information because the SANDF and the minister, and especially the president, they are not communicating with us. And the minister would have had an opportunity to explain in this committee hearing, facing the difficult, hard questions, what is actually happening. And it would have helped you, and it would have helped the public to understand what is going on. But as I was wanting to say, the minister doesn't want to come and account in front of the committee. She wants to create an environment for herself. And she called now an urgent, hastily called together press conference in Pretoria, where she can manipulate the information, where she can spin the story instead of having to face the hard, serious questions that we as members of parliament have to ask of her. The president of the Economic Freedom Fighters, our commander-in-chief, Julius Malema, stated a year ago that the SANDF troops are not resourced. They are being sent to be killed in the DRC. They must be called back. For a year, myself and other members of the EFF have been calling for our troops to be called back. Go and listen to the statements that I made in the various portfolio committee meetings on defense and military veterans. The speech that I made on the 14th of November, when I said the SANDF is collapsing. Go and listen to all of that. The minister was fully pre-warned. The president were, all of them, fully pre-warned. And yet they allowed this disaster to unfold. So now, myself as a member of this portfolio committee has a duty to insist on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters that our SANDF soldiers must be brought back immediately, that we must strengthen our ability to evacuate them. Goma is in the process of falling, if it's not fallen already.
From what
It's not.
Has that peacekeeping mission surrendered to the rebels?
It's not.
Well, you see, again, we get bits and pieces of information. But overall, my impression is that our peacekeeping mission, the SANDF side, is giving in. It is falling apart. Sadly so, under pressure because of a lack of equipment. And I want to say that those soldiers are courageous. They have been sent there in the most horrible circumstances without the necessary resources. And we insist that their lives must now be saved. So when we condemn the minister and the president for the dereliction of action, in fact, it is treasonous what they have done. At the same time, we honor the soldiers who followed instructions. Soldiers are given instructions, they must follow it. There are soldiers who lost their lives. I spoke 2 days ago to the wife of one of those soldiers. She told me that on Monday, that was before the 23rd, when her husband died, he sent her a message. He said, "My dear wife, I'm being sent now into a very dangerous place at Sake. We do not have the right equipment. We cannot defend ourselves. If you don't get any further message from me again, know that I've perished. Please take care of my children." This is the personal sacrifice that had been made by those soldiers. And this is what condemns the President of the Republic of South Africa and the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, because they knew exactly what they were doing. We told them, and yet they sent our soldiers in there to die. And now they run away from accountability. I hope the minister will, in 6 days or 7 days' time, come to the Portfolio Committee and represent herself. But I know that she is today trying to spin the story so that when she eventually comes to our committee, she can manipulate the story in order to try and protect and save herself. Because the only thing we have to do with here is that the elite in the African National Congress and the elite in the commanding corps of the SANDF are simply there to try and protect themselves, and they do not care for our soldiers. If they cared for them, they would have taken the right action on the basis of the warnings that we've given them long ago.
Thank you so much, Kaldenhouse, EFF MP, of course.